Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to day 4 of talking about fairy tales. Today we are going to look at the lesson or outcome of the book and talk about what that might be saying about the culture and what those cultures might value. So today the sub read you the Persian Cinderella. So we are going to talk about what the Persian Cinderella values and what the lesson was. So our learning target is readers compare and contrast similar themes and events in traditional literature from different cultures. So again, fairy tales. What is a fairy tale? A fairy tale is a type of folklore. Fairy tales often tell a story of good versus evil that involve magic and royal characters. Characteristics of fairy tales. A lot of times they begin with once upon a time or end with they lived happily ever after. You are very familiar with those terms as they are used very frequently in different types of fairy tales. They also take place in faraway places, a lot of times places you may not have heard of before. Characters are often kings and queens, so someone who's royal, and most of the time there is both good and evil characters. Why do authors write fairy tales? Authors write fairy tales to entertain their readers. Fairy tales are classic stories that get told over and over again. When an author writes a fairy tale, they are adding their spin on a traditional story to entertain their readers. Fairy tales are one of my absolute favorite genres of books, so I've been so excited about this unit. So we read The Rough-Faced Girl earlier in the week, and here's just some things from it. It said, as she walked on, she saw the great beauty of the earth and skies spreading before her. And while I'm reading this, I want you to think about the theme that you might hear and what they might value. So again, as she walked on, she saw the great beauty of the earth and skies spreading before her. And truly, she alone of all in the village saw in these things the sweet yet awesome face of the invisible being. When she looked at you, she would look you right in the eyes, and she could see all the way down to your heart. And she could tell if you had a good, kind heart or a cold, hard, and cruel one. And when she looked at the rough-faced girl, she saw at once that though her sin was scarred, kind heart. And she welcomed her dearly, saying, "Ah, my sister, why have you come?" Okay, so the place of origin for this, I want you to think about what the place of origin might be. Where is she from? And then what kind of lesson do you think the tale was telling you? And how do you know that? Well, she is an Algonquian Indian Cinderella. There are two different lessons that it kind of teaches you. One, nature is important. In this story, there has been a continuous theme of nature and how they value nature, and also how they value inner beauty and how that's more important than outer beauty. So if we're looking at the nature is important one, how do we know that that was a lesson or outcome of the tale? Well, it shows the great beauty of the earth and skies. It says those words. That means that we know that they think that nature is important. For inner beauty is more important than outer beauty. How do we know? Well, it says the wise woman could see all the way down to your heart. So they were being wise by looking at the hearts and your inner beauty other than the outer beauty. And today we read the Persian Cinderella, so I'm going to read this again, and then I want you to think in your head about the values that they might have and what that says about their culture and how we know that. So in the author's note, it said, and since Merdad means one who shows compassion, it seems appropriate for a prince. She pushed through the crowds, anxious to find her family again. But as she hurried, a wrinkled woman tugged on her cloak and held out a brass bowl. Spare a coin, young mistress, she begged. Satara hesitated. The old lady was shivering, and her robe hung in tatters. You are more in need of new clothes than I, grandmother, Satara said. Opening her fingers, she let most of her coins clatter into the woman's bowl. Okay, so again, think about the place of origin for this. It's called the Persian Cinderella. And I want you to think to yourself, what lesson or outcome came of this tale? What was most important to the Persian Cinderella? Think about that for a few seconds. And how do you know that? How do you know that it was so important? What in the story showed that? Once you've thought through some of those things, I want you to go ahead and get started on your next activity, whether it's independent reading or whatever, but make sure that you are at a level 0 while you do it. And I hope you are having a fantastic day.